Hello, and welcome to the 18th webinar in our 2017 SAP SuccessFactors HR Live Demo Series. Today's session is on time and attendance. My name is Jessie Labenwolf, and I'm going to cover some brief housekeeping. We'll be addressing your questions at the end of the demonstration, but you're encouraged to submit questions as you think of them using the Q&A panel on the left side of your console. If you experience any technical issues, please let me know via that same Q&A panel, and I'll help you out right away. Today's session is being recorded, and we'll be sending out a link to the replay of this webinar in the coming weeks. Keep an eye out for it in your email. Finally, I'd like to highlight the resource list, which should be on the right side of your console. It has a few assets for you to download, as well as a link for you to register for the full webinar series. You can access this by pressing the console. And with that, we're ready to dive in. Today's webinar will be led by Jim Maurer, who is a Solutions Principal here at SAP SuccessFactors. Jim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jessie. I'm going to start out with the PowerPoint presentation. We are again highlighting time and attendant management with SAP SuccessFactors Employee Central. Going to start out with the PowerPoint, not going to spend a whole lot of time on the PowerPoint, so I'm going to be doing a live demo. In the ways of introduction, Jessie already said I'm a solution principal. I'm working on my 21st year here at SAP SuccessFactors. If you look at time and attendance, it's really time to rethink time and attendance. In today's environment, it's really a diverse and agile environment. HR needs to provide business-enabling solutions. And with Employee Central Time and Attendance Management, with Employee Central, we're delivering value for strategic operation and technical stakeholders at every level. If I bring up the next PowerPoint, what's the emerging CHRO's mandates? What are the chief HR officers really looking at today? They're really looking at advising senior leaders, transforming HR strategy, and rethinking core HR operations. How is SuccessFactors time and attendance management going to assist in those areas? First of all, you have to look at some of the challenges. With emerging mandates, emerging challenges, if you look at time management, it's often been fragmented and local. What do I mean by that? Local solutions, including limited local views. It's not very global in nature. Companies and CHRs are afraid of not being in compliant, if you follow my PowerPoint. There's been a lack of insight and cost around time and management, as well as poor adoption for HR technologies. So how can we help you today understand with SAP SuccessFactors time and attendance how we can resolve some of those particular mandates? Let's look at the first one. Let's look at advising senior leaders. If we look at SuccessFactors time and attendance management, advising senior leaders includes transforming HR roles and relationships. We're able to identify time management-related problems, areas for the business. We can access the impact on workforce, cost, productivity, and compliance. Because think about this. We're using time and attendance with Employee Central. That information is being housed all in one area. So when we look at the total cost, we can look at where productivity is due or where there's maybe too much productivity or too much time being spent in one particular area. And we can deliver action plans to improve employees' health and productivity. Again, all because that information is housed within the time and management solution, and it's using the integration of the Employee Central solution. If we look at transforming HR strategy, again, from a time management standpoint, we can minimize employee risk around fatigue and outstanding leave balances and maximizing productivity. Why? Because we're housing and maintaining information around leave around the employees. Is there one or too much overtime being spent in one particular area? Are the employees fatigued because of that? Are they not using their vacation? Because metrics have been tied into productivity and employees that use or do not use vacation. We're housing all that information and able to report upon that within Employee Central Time Management. We provide a working environment which allows people to work when and where they want. The environment today needs to be flexible. You have to have flexible tools that allow people to have flexible schedules, to be able to log their time in from different devices like mobile devices or within the laptop themselves. And we're providing that with our solution today. We want to also ensure that you have the right data for the best workforce decisions. Again, that all comes to maintaining the information and able to report upon those type of metrics within the solution. The last subject I want to talk around is rethinking time management operations. With time management, with our solution, we define flexible time and attendance processes for today and tomorrow in a changing environment. We have flexible schedules. We have time profiles that can be defined to the employees based on their particular areas or specific country requirements, country regulations. That all is flexible within our time management solution. We deliver a global platform which supports local needs. So this solution is not local in one particular area. This can be rolled out in multiple countries because we provide the flexibility and the tool to allow you to support those local needs through configuration. We also provide real-time, mobile, and intuitive solutions because if it's not easy to use, if you don't allow your employees to enter their time either from a mobile device or through an intuitive solution, they're not going to be able to do it on a timely basis. Let's look at specifically, when we talk about EC time and attendance, what are we actually delivering with the solution and how, by using that with the rest of our core HR solution, it can benefit corporations such as yourself. If we look at EC time and attendance, and please follow my cursor, there's really three components of it. Time off, the ability, I would say, for exception reporting, where a person can come in and enter their time into the system, where you can set up accruals based on your requirements. You also have the ability to have the employee look at the schedules of the other people that are requesting time off. So around the holidays, if I want to go in and actually look at my department to see who may have requested time off, you have the ability to do that through time off. It also has the ability to set up the accruals specific to your requirements, and there's approval processes built into our time off solution. Now let's go on to what we call the timesheet. And in my mind, the timesheet is targeted more towards your hourly employees, the ability to come out and complete and fill out a timesheet. Again, these timesheets can be configured specific on your requirements. The overtime calculations are built into the engine behind the scene, which you'll see in the demo in a few minutes. So when someone enters time into a system on a day off, or there's a statutory requirement that says overtime over a specific amount of hours, that rule engine will actually calculate that behind the scenes with our time and attendance, with our timesheet, keeping in mind that this is all integrated into our payroll solution for overtime calculations, for tracking paid time off. Now, obviously, if somebody is just doing exception reporting, they're going to go to one area. I like to call that the right role for the right user. What role do you have in the organization? What type of information do you need to enter from a time standpoint? If a person's an hourly person, they're going to come to their timesheet. And within their timesheet, they're going to do their hourly reporting of time, but they're also going to be able to do their paid time off directly from that timesheet. The last area is the time administration workbench. How do I go in and set up and maintain this information? How do I set up my accruals? How do I do overrides? And we provide an administrative tool, which we'll show you in the demo, that will allow you to basically go in there and easily set up and maintain this information and override it. The big picture from this PowerPoint and what I want everyone walking away from today's presentation understanding with this PowerPoint is, yes, we have a robust and a very powerful Employee Central time and attendance solution, but the bigger value is the integration of this solution with the rest of the core HR solution, meaning that if I go into any transactions within HR, if I transfer someone, if I hire someone, that foundational information is the information that's used over here in EC time and attendance. The same with organizations and positions. Because we have what we call time profiles, they're attributes associated with certain classifications of employees. You can define that at the position level if that's something that you choose within Employee Centrals. Again, last but not least, let's remember that this is all driven into Employee Central payroll. From a costing standpoint, from a payment standpoint, from an overtime standpoint, and because all of that is tracked within this core piece of the solution, I can report on it if you follow my cursor here. From a statutory standpoint, from a compliance standpoint, I can report all that information. And this is all built on the platform within SuccessFactors and our cloud infrastructure. We talked about global platform with localized support for your business. Again, what that means to you from an organization is you're able to use this solution I'm about to show you, not in one country, but in all the countries or areas, local areas that you're doing business, because we provide you with the flexibility of setting up those local requirements. We use things like a holiday calendar. The U.S. holiday calendar obviously can be different than the calendar in Germany, the calendar in China. You're defining the specific holidays that country has, and you have rules that define how a person is going to be paid from an overtime standpoint. That's kind of the foundational when you set up time management. But then let's look at formatting, right? How one country enters time and tracks time from a formatting standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint, can be different from country to country. And as you can see here, this is just an example. This is an example of a standard screen for absence. We also have the ability to do it for employees in Germany or in other countries, because their formatting and their requirement and their statutory requirements of how you enter time and the rules associated with that are tracked differently. We're providing with that global platform to meet those requirements, not only locally, but globally throughout your organization. We're almost done the PowerPoints here. I just have a couple more. One last thing is the ability to roll this out onto a mobile. Not only can I come in here and request sick, vacation time through our mobile device. We're not going to have the ability to show this live today, but I want you to be aware of this in today's presentation. We can do it all through a mobile device. I can come in, similar to what I can show on the laptop, ask for a sick, ask for a vacation day, go through the approval processes you've already set up, and have that executed on the mobile device. The same with the timesheet. How many people do you may have out in the field that need to come in to enter their time while they're out in the field on a mobile device? That is all delivered within the solution. Okay, we're going to shift over here now and actually show a live demo. I'm going to change operations here. I like to show my demo for what I call the right role for the right user, as I pointed out during my PowerPoint presentation. And why I like to show it this way is because from a time entry standpoint or from a time management standpoint, depending on the role that you have in the organization, may define how you're entering time into the system. So the roles that I'm going to go through right now is, the first example is Faith Marshall. If we follow my cursor up here, Faith Marshall is a salary exempt employee that's just doing exception reporting when she needs to take a sick or vacation day. I'm logged into the system today. For the people that are not familiar with Employee Central, this is what we call our home page. Our home page is completely configurable based on your requirements, going back to the theme of the right role for the right user. What role do you have in the organization? What type of information do you need to push out to them? If I want to come in here and look at information related to managing my team, I can go to my team. If I want to go in and look at things that are related to my specialty in the field, like compensation, I have the ability to come in here and look at compensation-related information. As I draw further down the screen, I can look at things like my information. Think of this as employee self-service. If there's reports that are important to you, that need to be pushed out to you. Right here I have an example of a headcount report that's being pushed out to Faith, where she can drill in and get additional information. Again, this can all be personalized. If I drop down here and click on Personal Homepage, you can empower based on your specific requirements to allow Faith or any role in your organization to come out and pick and choose which tiles make sense for her in her particular job. We're concentrating again on time and attendance. And as I come down here to my information, you can see things like I can go in and do my performance appraisals. I can set my objectives. I can go into quick links. I also have a tile here called time off. Again, let's not lose focus of what Faith is here. It's just an example. Faith is an example of a salary exempt employee that's doing exception reporting. Right here on this tile, it shows us that she has 4 vacation days and no days planned. So if I drill into this tile, what's going to be presented to me is basically a summary, a balance of how much sick and vacation. This is all optional on what you display to Faith, but in our demo environment, as of today, because this is still all date effective, so if people need to carry over vacation, or you have the ability to basically define that in your rule definition. If I want to see a summary of everything, there's a little information button here, and I can see basically a summary of all the sick days, vacation, what I've taken, what's my balance, etc., are all listed right here. If I stroll down to the calendar, I can go from month to month by clicking on this button right here. I have, as I pointed out during the PowerPoint presentation, the ability to view my team absence calendar. This is very, very useful. Think again around the holidays when everyone is asking for sick time off, and before I come in and actually ask for that time off, I have the ability to come in and say, you know what, there's too many people currently asking for vacation. I'm not going to be able to see that. Right now we see that Faith Marshall has had a sick day on June 22nd. If I close this out, you can also see the request, if you look at my cursor right here, that Faith has made. She made one sick day request on June 22nd. It has not been approved, and it's showing her right here. At this point, I have the flexibility of canceling or editing that request. But very simply, how do I come in here and, let's say, ask for a vacation day? By the way, we're tracking vacation and sick. If you need to track other type of paid time off, it can be specific to your requirements. Right now, I can track jury duty or sick time, etc. So we want to ask for a vacation day. We're going to come down here to July and say, you know what, I'm going to ask for July 12th off, vacation day, and or scroll down here. It's going to automatically default July 12th down here. Maybe I want to put a comment in here and say, please. Do I need to upload an attachment? Typically for a vacation, you don't need to upload an attachment, but think about requirements around sick and what you may have in your organization. If there's a doctor's note or something that needs to be submitted, I can actually upload the attachment right here. The accruals, as I pointed out, can be specific to your requirements. How you want to handle accruals, how you want to carry over accruals. I haven't seen an accrual rule that we really could not meet, so keep that in mind. This is just a simple example. At this point, I'm actually going to submit this. You're going to see that there's a workflow approval process behind the scenes here. It's going to tell me that this vacation has been submitted. It is awaiting approval by Jeff Hill. It's also listed right down here as a request that's been made. As I pointed out, if I need to come in here and edit this, I have the ability to edit it. If I want to cancel the request, I can cancel the request. Maybe my vacation or my plans have changed. I need to come in and change that. It will automatically adjust the accruals. From a navigation standpoint, if I click on my home button here, it's always going to bring back, and I'm doing this for the benefit of the folks that may have never seen Employee Central. It brings me back to my home page where I can access all that information that I talked about a little earlier. That was a simple example of what we call paid time off, right? Doing exception reporting. But what happens if you're an hourly employee? I'm trying to show you the flexibility of our paid time off and timesheet. So now I'm going to shift gears now here. I'm going to go from Faith Marshall, and I'm not going to log into the system as Romeo. Now, Romeo is a little bit different than Faith. So going back to that initial theme, the right role for the right user, what Romeo sees on his homepage is completely different than what Faith saw based on his or her, in this example, his requirements. So he has a report out here around the cost of unscheduled absences. He has performance. He has the ability to complete his profile here. Again, this can all be personalized, and you can empower the end users to do that by coming up here and personalizing the home page. If we come down here under My Information, and I like to call My Information, think of My Information as self-service. So these are all the things that, in this example, Romeo can come in and actually change. Do I want to go in and look at what open jobs are available? Do I need to complete my performance appraisals? Do I need to enter my time into the system? Because originally we saw vacation when we were into Faith. Now we see timesheet. Why? Because Romeo is doing hourly reporting on a timesheet based on his employee classification. And how that can be driven or defined, again, is something that we call time profiles. So when you hire someone, and think about how this solution outreaches just the core piece of the solution, this reaches our recruiting solution. So think about the whole recruiting process. You go through a recruiting process. You recruit an hourly person. You onboard that person. Eventually, you hire that person into the system. You can automatically have the time profile that this person is an hourly person default on the position and then get carried out through here through self-service. The point I'm trying to make is that this time and attendance solution is really not just a standalone solution. It reaches all the other areas within SuccessFactors from a core as well as a recruiting and profile standpoint. But what are we looking at right now? We're looking at an example of a timesheet. I'm going to show you another example of a timesheet of Romeo. And if I come down here, you can see it's set up by Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If I look at the details here, again, these are all optionals. All right? Do I want to come in here and allocate my time or overtime? How many hours? But look at this. I can also allocate this to a specific cost center. For the folks that may be using SAP, in addition to using SuccessFactors, this is integrated with our ERP financial solution. So you have the ability to have an employee, in this example, allocate time to a different cost center or some other cost element. We can also come in here and give them the flexibility of, adding an absence. So if I want to come in here and add my vacation or sick time, I didn't need to go to another area to do that just because I'm an hourly person. It's all housed here. Some companies allow allowances for travel and things like that, for meals. If you want to provide the employee the ability to do that, you can. You can, again, build that directly into the employee's profile. What do I mean by that? So let's say Romeo comes in this week and he needs to enter his time into the system. Based on his, again, time profile, he's normally working 8 hours per day. It defaults the 8 hours in here. And if you're looking at this and saying, yeah, but our employees do clock in and clock out hours, I'm going to show you an example of that in a few minutes. This, again, is just one particular way of showing how you can configure these timesheets based on your business requirements. So Romeo supposedly works 8 hours a day. So if I come in here and default this and say, okay, I worked 8 hours in this day, and you know what, Tuesday I did the same. My boss had me come in and work a couple extra hours on Wednesday. What could I have over here? Base pay is 16 hours for those first 2 days. Now I'm going to come in here and say, you know what, I worked 10 hours on Wednesday. Automatically, based on the rule engine in the background, part of your setup and configuration, because to the employee it doesn't matter. All he knows is that he worked 10 hours that day, and based on that statutory requirement, your overtime requirement, the union requirement, he's going to get 2 hours of overtime on Wednesday. So then I work 8 hours on Thursday, and I worked another 8 hours on Friday. Oh, I forgot to mention that I worked 5 hours on Sunday. Now, 5 hours is not just overtime. It's actually Sunday overtime premium hours. So you can see how flexible, how robust, and how the overtime calculations can be set up directly on this timesheet, keeping in mind, let's not lose focus on the value of this feeding into other areas, right? This type of information you're able to report upon. What's my total overtime premium for a particular department or a particular company? This also drives over to payroll, Employee Central payroll, if you're using our payroll solution. So now I can assign rates and do the overtime calculations and have a true understanding of what the cost of my overtime is. And also, let's not lose focus of paying the person the correct overtime from a payroll standpoint. Normally, I would say any questions at this point. I think we're holding our questions to the end. So at this point, if I wanted to submit this for approval, similar to what I showed you when when Faith made a request for a vacation or sick time, if I click on the submit button here, oh, look at this. I neglected to point this out. In addition to being able to calculate overtime and premiums and things like that, we can also do time in lieu. So if your organization has any requirements of working or getting time in lieu of working overtimes, we can set that up behind the scenes and have the flexibility of doing that. So you can see it right there. I'm going to cancel out of here. And I'm going to shift one more gear. We talked about an employee that has to do clocked in and clocked out hours. So again, I'm going to shift gears right now. I'm going to go from Romeo, and I'm actually going to go to Carl. So we're going to leave, and we're going to log into Carl's. Same idea here, right? We're going to go to that home page. What's important to Carl? Every time I go into this home page, you see a little bit difference based on their specific requirement, their specialty, okay? And again, but we're concentrating on the time entry piece of entering time into the system. If I come down here to my information, again, we can go in and look at open jobs, we can look at the organization chart, and we have a timesheet here. So Carl, again, is an example of an hourly person that's doing daily time entry on a timesheet. The only difference from him and the last person I showed you is that Carl does clocked in and clocked out hours. So his timesheet's a little bit different. It's actually defaulting the hours similar to what we saw, right? But we've built into the time profile that his working time is from 8 to 5. His breaks 15 minutes, as well as lunchtime. So it's built into that already. So in this example, Carl doesn't need to clock in and clock out. He can come in and say, on Monday, I've worked 8 hours, okay, same as Tuesday. If there's any exception to this or any variable to this, I can actually come in here and say, on a particular day, I clocked in 8 hours, 10 hours on a particular day, and it will do the same type of over-calculation that you saw on the last one. The point being here, and the reason for me showing you this is just another example of the flexibility of our timesheets where this person can actually do clocked in and clocked out hours. So let's kind of refresh what I've showed up to this point, because I want to take some time and show you the administration that's set up of this and how easy it is to actually do that within SuccessFactors. But let's summarize what we showed up at this point. I've showed you examples of the ability to enter time in the system. The first example was Faith Marshall. Faith Marshall was an example of a person that's doing exception reporting only, so she's going in and asking for sick, vacation. We talked about how the accruals can be as complex or as simple as you want them to be, whether or not the accruals carry over or do not carry over. I showed you how the approval can be set up already in there, and again, that's another example of integration. And on the PowerPoint, we talked about organization. If you've defined who, in example of Faith, who her manager is, that will automatically circulate that workflow approval to that manager for that approval. The second example is Romeo, where I went in and showed you an example of an hourly person entering time on a particular timesheet. Pretty straightforward. His particular hours of 8 hours defaulted on the timesheet. I went in and showed you how you could go in and enter overtime hours. It's all transparent. In that example, the person comes in and just says, I went in and worked 10 hours on this day, 5 hours on a Sunday, and the engine in the background went in and actually calculated all the overtime hours. The last example I showed you here was Carl Dixon. Similar to Romeo, he's an hourly person that needs to come in and do a daily clocking in of his time. The only difference is that Carl typically does the clocked in and clocked out, so I can come in and actually either default on a daily basis those hours. I showed you how flexible it is that you can build in the specific working times with breaks as well as lunch hour that will automatically come out of the particular employees if that's the way you'd handle it today. What I want to do now is I want to spend a little time talking about and showing you the administrative pieces of this and how easy it is to maintain EC time and attendance within SuccessFactors. We're going to shift gears here, and I'm actually going to go to an administrator. So all what I'm showing you right now is controlled by security and permissibilities. So right now I'm logged into Anya. Anya is an administrator within the solution. Similar homepage, but you know what? Anya has different responsibilities. She has security, permissibility access into areas that you haven't seen up to this point. So when I come up here into Anya and I want to go in and search for an employee, we're going to pull up Faith Marshall. You can see Faith Marshall here. If I click on Faith Marshall, Anya has access to all the particular information around Faith, where she's located, is she married. Again, this is all controlled by permissibility, and obviously not everyone's going to have this ability and access to this type of information. But you can see, I can see her national ID information, her personnel information, her contact, her dependents, and look what I have access to. Again, let's not lose focus. Anya is a time administrator, so she's able to come in and administer the time from a personal standpoint here. I can go into her timesheet if I want to. I can go into Faith's timesheet. I can see how much vacation, sick time she has. I can also, because I have the correct permissibilities, I can administer time for Faith. So if I click on Administer Time, you're going to see that I'm presented with what we call the Time Manager's Workbench. So this is where an administrator or somebody with the correct authorization can come in and do overrides or see a summary, because we know we never have to do any type of exceptions to anybody's time entry. That was a little joke there. We know that there's always reasons that you need to maybe do an exception and that the employee will not have the authority to do that. So in this example, Anya can come in here and say, you know what, I can see how much sick and vacation time, whether or not the vacation time is pending for Anya here, and do I need to come in and maybe I actually need to come in here and add an absence. So as an administrator, I can come in and actually add a vacation or sick time. Maybe, unfortunately, Faith is going on a leave of absence and she didn't have the access or the ability to come in and enter a leave. So her manager, if you give them the correct authorization, or an administrator can come in here and actually do that for them if they choose to do that. If I look at the time accounts, this looks more at the accrual information, right? How much sick time do I have? I'm able to look at it from 2016, 2017. I'm looking at it from 2017. Vacation, right? What's the period? When can they book the time? Okay. What's the actual account posting listed down here? You can see that she has 2 days. And look what I have the ability to do as an administrator. Do I need to add a manual adjustment? Do I need to change her accruals or deduct her accruals? Again, for any type of manual override that you may need. This could be a variety of different reasons. The person was on leave of absence, or they, for some reason, there was some type of an exception where you have to add the accrual up front. Hopefully, you never need to do this because, again, the engine will typically take care of this. I'm only showing you this because, in most cases, people will have some type of exception and you have the ability to do that. Payout. If your company policy is to pay out vacation or sick time when a person terminates, leaves, or retires, you have the ability to completely override it right here if you choose to do that, where I can come in here and say, standard rate, pay this out, and of course, if you're using Employee Central Payroll, this is going to feed directly into our payroll solution. Employees have the ability to have work schedules. If you're a salary-exempt employee, maybe they're not so complicated. A person typically works 8 hours per day. Maybe an hourly person, it's more complex. That is typically defined on the employee's level. But if you need to come in or with the employee's profile, if for some reason I need to come in and make a temporary change, and again, you will see that happen quite often, I can come in here and add a new temporary change right here. I can pick the date that the change is going to be effective, and I can come in and actually pick whatever schedule you have. We can have as little or as many schedules that you have based on your specific requirements. Is a 2-week rotation, normal, whatever your requirements are, and I can temporarily, because this is date effective, temporarily change the person's schedule. Maybe somebody's on a leave of absence, and we need to temporarily assign them to another schedule. I have the ability right here to do that. Last but not least is the time alerts. This is where you can define the type of warnings and messages a person can have if you choose to do that. The last thing I want to cover before I close out the presentation piece is reporting. Because people will ask, well, how is reporting handled? You're maintaining all this information in the solution from a time and attendance standpoint. How is this all maintained? And Employee Central, I'm going to go to the Analytics tab here, handles reporting as it does with all of our core pieces of HR. We have standard reports, we have dashboard reports, and we have analytic reporting tools. All these particular tools have ad hoc query tools associated with them. So if one of our standard reports did not meet one of your requirements, you have the ability and flexibility to go into our ad hoc reporting tool and create a report that's specific to you. I'm waiting for this time account snapshot report to appear, but as we're waiting for that to appear, I'm going to come down here and just show you an example of some of the different Employee Central standard reports, including time. So we have benefit reports, compensation, employee information, personnel, position, and there's an example of some of the time management reports, which include things like employees' time account, overtime information. And there's an example of the report. Again, at the end of the day, if one of these standard reports does not meet your requirements, we can go in, or you can go in and create any report to get any type of the information. The important idea here is that you're housing all that information, not only the time and attendance information, but you're housing the core information within the solution, and you have the ability to cross-reference that information. So I'm looking at just an example report here. It's a list of vacation earned, what has actually been used. It's been sorted by department. If I come over here, I can see the available balances. If I need to come in, again, similar to the reporting tools that we deliver within SuccessFactors, I can download this on a PowerPoint or put this on an Excel spreadsheet based on your requirements. All right, so I'm looking forward to opening this to any questions. Jesse, we are done from a demo standpoint at this point.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that. Jim. I want to offer a real quick poll out to the audience. If you're interested in a complimentary one-on-one demo and getting some direct interaction and learning more about time and attendance, go ahead and click on the Yes Radio button. I'm going to leave this up on our screen while we handle the first few questions. If for some reason you miss out and I advance the slide, don't worry, there's another opportunity at the end of this webinar to fill out a survey and get that same opportunity for a one-on-one demo. But let's get going. We've got lots of great questions in here. The first is, how can I eliminate paperwork utilizing SuccessFactors Employee Central time and attendance?
Because the solution is available not only on the laptop as well as the mobile devices, you really don't need to maintain any time and any paper. It's all being done electronic. You have an electronic record of the actual time entered as well as the approval process. That's all stored and maintained in the solution.
Can you specify the exact hour of entrance and leave, not just the amount of hours worked?
Can you repeat that, Jesse, please? Sorry.
Yes. Can you specify the exact hour that someone entered or left, and not just the total number of hours worked?
Yes, you can do percentages of hours, etc. Absolutely.
Time can be allotted to a cost center for customers using on-premise SAP ERP CATS for time entry orders, projects, etc. Can this be entered into SuccessFactors? It was not available earlier this year.
Yeah, currently I will check whether or not it's on the roadmap. We can have follow-up. But to answer your question, currently today it's available charging it to a cost center, not to a CATS or WBS element today, as of today. So Jesse, I can follow up on the roadmap on that question.
Oh, great. Thank you. How can we eliminate as much entry as possible regarding time worked?
I'm not quite sure I understand that question, Jess. I'm going to have to. Why don't we go to the next question? I'll come back to that. So. Yes.
Definitely, yes. And if Francis wants to write it and elaborate, we definitely will get to that question.
Okay, great.
Brian wants to know, is there a way to show a view that allows scheduling the ability to see an entire team's weekly schedule?
We don't have a scheduling tool associated with Employee Central Time. Although we're keeping track of the work schedules, okay, we currently do not have that view.
Is this included with Employee Central, or is it an add-on?
This is, I don't want to say free of charge. This is part of your normal subscription fee. There's no additional cost for this particular functionality.
Is there anything the mobile app cannot do?
No. I mean, everything I showed you today, it can enter the paid time off as well as the entire timesheet is available on the mobile device.
Can you explain what time in lieu does or provide an example?
Some companies have, instead of getting paid overtime, they can get time in lieu. So if they work overtime, they can bank that vacation. Again, it can be handled different ways, but they can bank that time and use it in lieu. So they basically think of it as you can add it to vacation. So it's some companies have that option.
And now I kick back to another question that we wanted some more info on. The person wants to understand how they can fully automate time and attendance without a lot of manual interaction. Can they integrate to a clocking system?
Yes. I mean, we obviously have partners that, if, at the end of the day, we're not going to provide the time clocks. Okay, so if you're in an environment where you need a time clock, we can take those hours, right, those raw hours, and feed it into our time and attendance system and have the engine do the calculation. A lot of different options here because some people will have time clocks and they'll do the overtime or calculation hours directly on the time clocks and then feed that directly into payroll. But at the end of the day, the answer is yes to that question. We can definitely interface or use this with any time clocking tools.
You just killed two birds with one stone. I was about to ask, does it integrate with any time clock? There is our answer. All right. Lots of great questions flying into the queue. We're going to keep this going. Documents attached, possible to be uploaded to request. What options for long-term archiving are available?
OpenText is our partner around archiving, so that would, that's the tool that we would use. So if we can upload anything into the system, but if you want to archive them and things like that, and there's more complexity on what you want to do with that, OpenText would be our partner.
Does it include a holiday calendar for Central American countries?
You have to configure a lot of those holiday calendars, but yes, I mean it's flexible enough that you can set up as many or as little as those calendars as you want. And some companies go down to the local level. Even in the U.S., you could have a holiday calendar for a specific part of the country if that's something that you need to define.
Tagging back to a previous question, can this be purchased as a standalone module or is it integrated with EC?
We don't market this as a standalone. This requires Employee Central. That's some of the power around Employee Central time management is the integration with all the core pieces of HR and the other pieces of SuccessFactors. So the answer to that would be no.
And going back to the clocking, can the product handle time events, clocking in and clocking out, and can they be imported from time collection devices?
Well, hopefully everyone saw me showing the clocked in and clocked out when I went into Carl Dixon's user. The question is, if you want to import that from a time clock and store it within SuccessFactors Employee Central Time Management, you can do that. You have a couple different options there, and that would be a longer discussion on how you want to do that, right? How you could feed that information directly into Employee Central Payroll. So there's a couple different options there. I would want to spend a little bit more time understanding the requirement around that. But the question is, yes, you can import those time clocked in and clocked out hours from a time clock. But there might be a couple other different options.
Excellent. And to that point, there will be an email sent out within the next 2 to 3 weeks that will have a link to this replay. So if you missed it during the live session, you can go back and watch Jim do those things there. And let's jump into the next question. Does it integrate well with payroll systems outside of SuccessFactors?
Yes, it would just be part of the normal feed that would go to that third-party solution. So, again, if you're using Employee Central Time and Time and Attendance, the engine is actually built within Employee Central. So the calculated hours would feed to that third. Again, there's multiple options here. I just want to make sure I'm clear about that. But typically, those evaluated hours would feed to that third-party payroll solution, and a rate would be assigned in there.
Why does SuccessFactors recommend workforce software for time and attendance? Does EC time and attendance have less functionality?
Great question, and yes, if you want to do anything around, and workforce management is one of our partners, OX partners, and if you want to do anything around scheduling or have any requirements about family medical leave, that's where the flexibility and the robust of our partner workforce management plays a part.
Can a profile be created to default employee time attributes?
Time, what was that last piece, time?
Attributes.
Yes, absolutely. That's the whole part of the time profile. If that person that's asking that question is familiar with the on-premise SAP solution, the time profile works very, very similar. You can have attributes. So if an employee classification is going to be assigned to a certain time profile, that can all be defined. And there's rules that you can have associated with that if you choose to do that.
Can partial hours be entered on the timesheet?
Yes.
All right. Is EC Time integrated with EC Payroll?
It is. Yes, it is. That's one of the advantages of using EC Time with EC Payroll. Absolutely.
Excellent. How is this solution different from workforce software?
I think I pointed that out. If you're looking for more things around, right? This is again. That's not Employee Central Time Management meets a lot of the requirements. If you have a lot of complexity around scheduling and people on FMLAs and things like that, that's where our partner Workforce Management plays an important role in our full suite of products. So I don't want to minimize Workforce Management. I think that whoever asked that question, it probably would be best to sit down and understand specifically what your requirements are, and then we could recommend the best solution.
And a great way to do that would be sign up for one of our complimentary one-on-one demos. So that concludes the Q&A that we've got here in our queue, and I want to thank everyone for joining us today. A big thanks to our speaker, Jim Maurer, and to you, our audience. Thank you so much for your time and participation. Would you like to sign up for a complimentary one-on-one demo with SAP? In a few moments, a voluntary survey will pop up asking for feedback on today's session, as well as includes a way to schedule a one-on-one demo. It's a great way to reach out, ask for more personalized information, as well as help shape our future webinars for you. Just a reminder that today's webinar has been recorded, and we will be sending out a link to the replay in the coming weeks. We hope that you'll join us for a demo in 2 weeks when we'll cover recruiting and onboarding. There's a link to register for that demo along with the rest of the series located in the resource list. Again, thank you for joining in today's session. Have a great day.